With Phil Jurkovec doubtful to return this season, what should expectations be for Boston College for the rest of 2021? All of this and more on today's Locked On Boston College.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. On today's show, we're going to look at the expectations that we have around Boston College football now that quarterback Phil Jurkovec is most likely out for the remainder of the 2021 season. What will the team look like under Dennis Grosel, and how will our expectations about the outcome of the season be adjusted? We'll look at that. We'll also look at Jeff Hafley's comments on Tuesday. He talked to the media. We'll look at some of the things that he talked about and give you some of the perspective of, what maybe some of the things that he brought up. And finally, Boston College basketball lands their second basketball commitment in 2 weeks. So we'll look at that commitment and talk a little bit about what he means to the basketball program. But let's kick it off by talking about Dennis Grosel and Phil Jurkovec. So as we mentioned yesterday on the show, Dennis Grosel is going to be the starting quarterback for the foreseeable future as Boston College quarterback Phil Jurkovec fractured his hand. Fractured something. He's fractured a bone, according to Jeff Hafley. He didn't say exactly what it was. During Saturday's game against UMass, he's now doubtful for the remainder of the season. We'll get into Hafley's comment in just a bit, but what I saw, when I go on Twitter, you look at all the comments, and you got two different camps of Boston College fans. You have the fans that are like, okay, maybe things are not as good under under Grosel as they would be under Drakovic, and then you have the others that look like they're about to throw themselves off the Tobin Bridge. Okay, you have and there's no in between. So you got the okay, we could stay a little bit optimistic, and those who are just very, very pessimistic. I had someone laughing at me because I said they could win 8 games. And folks have been wondering kind of where I stand and how I envision the rest of the season going. And I want to clarify where I'm at with BC football. Now, I am definitely not in I'm going to throw myself off of the Tobin Bridge crew because I don't think this team is nearly as bad as they do. Many of the things that they worried about, I have talked about at length, the vanilla defense, the vanilla offense. If you're using that to judge the future of this program, you're starting at the wrong direction because, as I've mentioned over and over again, Hafley is not setting his team up based off of those first 2 weeks. You're going to wait and see. Now, how will Grossell run this offense, I think is a good question, but I have faith in him. Now, Frank Cignetti said earlier in the summer that he has more faith in Grossell because he knows the playbook better than anyone, including Cignetti himself. So Grossell is a strong quarterback. He is not as accurate as Drakovic. He's not as physical as Drakovic, but he can run this offense. He can get the ball to Zay Flowers. He can get the ball to Trey Berry. He can get it to CJ Lewis. He is going to be able to do all of these things because he's good. He threw for 520 yards last year. And yes, he threw for 2 interceptions in that game, but partially he did that because BC's defense wasn't stopping anyone, and he had to really kind of chuck the ball around on the field, and that kind of skewed his numbers a little bit. But Grossell is very popular with Jeff Hafley for a reason. He can do it. And I don't think, and you're looking at the stats, right? You're looking at what the difference between the end results at BC before Drakovic and after. You look at the BC schedule. The one big game that I look at, and I said, okay, I thought about it at the beginning, and I had said we're going to lose it. BC was going to lose it anyways, was the game against Clemson. So that game looks even more like that's probably not going to happen. However, look at every other game on this schedule. Mizzou, they're playing okay. They just got smoked by Kentucky. You have Virginia Tech. They just lost their all-pro tight end, James Mitchell. Their best wide receiver is gone. You look at North Carolina State, Peyton Wilson, and their who was supposed to be the the defensive player of the year for the ACC, is out for the season too, along with their starting free safety. Other teams are getting hurt, and yes, I understand that Drakovic is a bigger deal than that, but I look at Drakovic and I say, okay, he's a quarterback that can put make some big plays, and he's going to make some, tight throws and be able to move the ball at different points. Can Grossell do that? We've seen him do it. We know he can. He won't be able to do it at the level Drakovic can, but he could get Boston College to be an 8-win team. And someone was laughing at me on this on Twitter. Listen, look it. They're playing Temple this weekend. I still think they're a 16-point favorite for a reason. Grossell or Drakovic, they haven't even changed the odds because I think the Vegas knew about it before everyone announced it. I still think so. They're going to go 3-0 into Mizzou, and then you just have to win 5 games out of the rest. Florida State just lost to Jacksonville State. NC State just lost their best two of their best defenders. Virginia Tech lost their best wide receiver. Syracuse is garbage. You're looking at this schedule, and there's not that many. Oh, sorry, and Louisville is a mess. So you have all these games, and even with Grossell back there, I still think they're 50-50 or slight leans towards Boston College because BC's offense can run with Grossell behind them. They can score a ton of points with him. And yes, he didn't throw a ton against UMass, but he will. We'll talk about what Hafley said about him in just a moment. He's going to do the things that Drakovic did, maybe not to that level, but he's going to be able to run this offense. This is not running, from some of the things I'm reading online, it sounds like people are thinking this is going from Tom Brady to Jamarcus Russell, or Tom Brady to a freshman quarterback who hasn't seen the field. Dennis Grosel has been around. He knows the offense. It's a slight decrease in his ability, but it's a guy that can do it. He's not going to go out there and look shell-shocked the whole game. And that means Boston College should still be in every game this season. Maybe not Clemson, but every game this season, they should be in there. So I want to just say my point of view on this. I don't think BC is going to win the ACC. And I think even with Drakovic, they weren't going to win the ACC. Some of you, I think, had a little bit too high expectations. But we'll see what happens with Grossell, and I'm saying it right now. I get to change my predictions from earlier this season because Drakovic's gone. I think BC still wins 8 games. Maybe they lose one more now that they have Grossell behind quarterback, but I still think they're going to win 8. In a moment, we're going to talk about Hafley's comments about Drakovic and Grossell today because I think they were very revealing, and they'll give you a better perspective of where the team stands and where the coaching staff sees this roster. Now, if you like this podcast, you need to check out Locked On ACC. It's hosted by Candace Cooper and a rotating selection of hosts from the ACC Locked On shows, including yours truly. We talk about everything ACC. We talk about the games. We talk about our power rankings. We do it all. You need to check it out. Check out Locked On ACC wherever you get your podcasts. We're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back to start another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. And don't forget to use promo code NFL100. From basketball, football, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of the amazing offers available this 2021 season. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Now, this is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. Now, we're talking about Phil Jurkovec's injury and Dennis Grosel taking over, and you can listen to what I have to say, and I'm just a podcaster. I'm a journalist who covers BC, and a very spirited journalist, I had to say, and, I have my BC history. But when it comes down to it, it's important to hear from the staff themselves. And on Tuesday, Jeff Hafley spoke with the media for the first time since Drakovic's injury, and he gave updates on where Drakovic is. Let's hear from Hafley.
How's he doing right now?
Feels good. I'm sure just like you would be. He's probably a little down. Had a great talk with him before he went into the surgery, after the surgery. Then I told him, you can think about it, you can beat yourself up about it, and what's it going to do for you? And I told him next year at this time, we'll probably look back and say, hey man, aren't we glad for some reason that happened? Because something great's going to come out of it. And that's how he's got to think, and that's how he's got to believe, and he's just got to go forward now. So the surgery went well. We expect a full recovery. I asked the doctor if he would get maybe throw the ball even further now. He told me no, but I'm still hopeful that he'll get some superhuman grip strength or something. But he's doing okay. He's a tough kid. He's a resilient kid. He's got a great supporting cast here with the staff and the players, and we'll just put our arms around them, and he'll be back.
That was Jeff Hafley talking about Phil Jurkovec. We all think, and we're hoping that that Jurkovec is doing well. It's got to be super disappointing for a quarterback who had so much expectations. He was a first-round draft pick projection to be immediately injured in the second game of the season and miss the remainder of the year. And I think what ends up happening, and I thought was really interesting, was Hafley's second comment that he makes on Drakovic. And this is what we're going to listen to in just a moment, where, many of us have wondered, and I said it on yesterday's show, where is Drakovic's head in terms of next year? It's only October. It's not even October yet. And he's probably already having to think about, what am I doing in 2021? What am I doing in 2022? And that is where he has to be. And I thought Hafley gives a kind of guarded answer, but one that may give you a little insight onto where things are going. Let's hear from Hafley again.
I thought about every silver lining possible when you lose one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country, a kid who people are talking about as a first-round draft pick. You can either really be depressed and upset, or you can look at silver linings, and I looked at a lot of silver linings, and that's definitely one of them. So I'll be excited next year when he's standing in front of you guys doing more interviews. I certainly wish he was playing now, but that is a silver lining, yes.
And just for clarification purposes, I don't even know.
That was Jeff Hafley again, and there you have it. I mean, he makes it sound pretty clear at the end of that. He says, when Phil's back in front of you in another year, that makes it sound like to me that Drakovic is coming back. And that wouldn't surprise me. As we said on yesterday's show, Drakovic, he's only started, 10 games now, 9 games? And I think, scouts throughout the country are going to want to see more. And so if he, right now, if he was to go to the NFL draft, I was talking to Mitchell Wolf about this, who is on our show all the time. And he said, if Drakovic goes now, he's a fringe third round or late round pick. And that's true, because Drakovic, scouts are going to want to watch the film. They're going to want to see what Drakovic can do. And there's not a lot of it. And you have to look at what happened to Jamie Newman of Georgia and Wake Forest this year to understand that maybe rushing it is not the best idea. Jamie Newman was hurt all of last year and then decided, hey, I'm going to go try it in the NFL. He goes undrafted and is cut in the first week of camp. He's gone. He's not in football anymore. There's all sorts of cases both ways, but the way it looked like with Drakovic, you want to get some more. And the way Hafley's saying it sounds like, to me, that he'll be back, which I think for Boston College fans is going to be really exciting. You really want to see him get a full season, and hopefully, he grows from this year, he grows from the injury and figures out what happened. So, I mean, it was fluky, but you want to make sure that he stays healthy for an entire season. So I thought that was a really interesting comment from Hafley. Now, the final comment is not on Drakovic, it's on Dennis Grosel. And, when I was on Twitter and on my message board, maroonandgoldforums.com, there's people out there that really want to see the freshmen and sophomores get some reps. Now, Hafley says it, and I don't believe it's in this comment, that they're going to now, he mentions that he thinks Dalen Maynard knows the offense better than the other two, so Matt Reeve and Emmett Moorhead. But when he's looking at it, you look at Dennis Grosel, you hear about his leadership qualities, and he gives it a better perspective of why he's going to be the starter.
We've talked about it, Rich, from the time he came in against Clemson last year to starting against Virginia, to coming in and taking us through the win last week and really managed the game well. Dennis is great. And what I said to the team today in the team room, injuries are going to happen, and some of them are hard, right? And some of them hit you really hard, and some of them for a minute you can sit there and feel sorry for yourself, but we're not going to do that. And Dennis is the prime example that I said to all the young guys and the whole team. What has Dennis done every single day of his career? He's practiced, he's put in the preparation, he's worked, he's put himself in the position that when his number's called, he's ready to play. And Dennis could have left last year and started at a lot of teams in college football. He could have. He could have probably started on many different levels, but he chose to stay here. And he doesn't sulk, he doesn't complain, he's the backup, he knows his role, and he's ready to play. And that's a message for everybody on the team, whether you're the third string, fourth string, scout team, second. When your time comes, you better be ready. And Dennis is, and that's why we're not going to flinch. And that's why we're not going to make excuses, and it's not woe is me. And I can't wait to see him play.
Now, how refreshing is that? I know it's easy to be down because Drakovic is out, but think back, if you have not checked it out, go check out Eric Hofstas on Twitter and watch Steve Adazio's press conference from this weekend. It sounds like the greatest hits of when he used to be at Boston College. Excuses and all that stuff. Hafley's not making any excuses. He's saying that they need to be prepared. They need to be ready. There's no excuses for this team. And they're a team that has lost their starting free safety right now. Deion Jones hasn't played. Jalen Gill hasn't played. Marcus Valdez hasn't played. Boom is out for the season. Aaron Boumeri. And Drakovic is now probably out for the season. And now you bring in Dennis Grosel, and he brings an energy, In another comment, Jeff Hafley later says that today's practice was the most energetic he's seen his team all year. That tells you what Grossell does, and that the players there respect him incredibly. So, for the folks that want to see Emmett Moorhead or Dalen Menard, I get it. And they're going to get their chance with the second team during practice. It sounds like all three of them are going to get that chance. But if you start them, you are immediately taking a team, as I said, that could possibly still win 8 games. I still think it's possible, to a team that's going to struggle to get to a bowl game at this point. I'm just being truthful. They're not that. They don't know the offense as well as Grossell. They're not the leader in the huddle like Grossell is. So I think Hafley does a really nice job of laying all that out. And if you want to hear everything Jeff Hafley had to say, I was really interested in his comments today. You can go to the BC Athletics YouTube channel and you can watch his whole press conference. Now, in a moment, we're going to talk about basketball recruiting, and I got some interesting news that we can talk about from earlier this week. It's been so busy. You want to check that out. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. They come in 9 delicious flavors. You gotta check some of these out. Coconut almond, cherry, raspberry mint brownie, peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, and salted caramel. There's something for everyone. And hey, if you don't know which one, if you're like, oh, these all sound good, get a mixed box. You get 2 of each and you can find out your favorite flavor. Now, these Built Bars, they're 100% covered in chocolate. And the flavor profiles are delicious. They have 17 grams of protein, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs. How are you going to beat that? You're not. You're going to check it out. Head on over to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15 and you'll receive 15% off your first order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. We're kind of wrapping up our conversation on Phil Jurkovec and Dennis Grosel. It's a busy week so far for Boston College, and everyone just wants to talk about the quarterback situation, and I totally get it. So we really haven't got into Temple at all. We'll do that tomorrow. In addition, if you've been listening to our podcast, you know that every week we've had a different Boston College football commitment, or player that's committed to Boston College, come on our show to talk about their story. And I want to announce it now so you get hyped up for it. On Thursday's show, Georgia running back CJ Clinkscales will be joining us to talk about his journey and decision to pick up Boston College. You want to hear about a new running back, one who's had a lot of success so far for Buford High School in Georgia. You're going to want to hear this interview. It'll be about a good 10 minutes, and you'll get to hear about a player that could be a lightning fast running back heading into the final season at Boston College. Next year at Boston College. Now, when you're talking about recruiting, we're going to switch gears a little bit here. We haven't talked about basketball in a while. Last week, we talked about it when Boston College landed top 100 guard Donald Hand out of Virginia, a massive get for Earl Grant and his staff, as he's one of the top recruits BC has landed in a long time, and BC had no recruits, so that was a big one. Now, BC added on. They added a new recruit less than a week later from the same area of the country. Chas Kelley, a guard, another 6'5" guard, who had no stars, but he had offers from Rutgers, Ohio, Butler, and George Mason, and he chose Boston College. Now, I want to read to you what he said about why he chose BC. This is a quote directly from Chas Kelley to our site, BC Bulletin. Boston College is the perfect fit for what I was looking for in a school and a program. Earl Grant is a defensive-minded coach who establishes great relationships with his players. I felt that from day one, and it was confirmed once I got on campus. He visited about a week ago. The opportunity to compete at the highest level in the ACC and help rebuild a program is exciting and a challenge that I'm up for. I am bringing versatility at the guard spot through my offensive IQ and my defensive mentality. Boston College will help satisfy my 4-year plan as well as my 40-year plan. I'm, and in all capital letters, all in. So that's Chas Kelley. Now, Chas Kelley is 6'5". He's a defensive-minded guard, and I think that's really exciting. So you're looking at Earl Grant bringing in 2 guards. And I think what really is exciting about them is that they complement each other so well. Donald Hand is a combo guard. He's one that can shoot the ball and play defense, while Chas Kelley is going to be that lockdown defender. And, if you've watched BC basketball under Jim Christian, they need defense bad. Chas Kelley will be that. He will be here in 2022, so there's another year to go. But you gotta love where Earl Grant is going with this basketball program. He's bringing in guys that fit his mold, that guys that can fit his defensive scheme. And if Earl Grant wants to come here and make things pretty not gritty, like he said when his introductory press conference, and play tough-nosed, defensive-minded basketball, that's how you're going to win here. Like, Boston College is not going to bring in elite scorers, guys that are going to lead the country in scoring. They're going to bring some guys in who can score. I mean, gosh, they brought in Bowman and Robinson. But you're also going to bring in guys that you want guys that play defense. Look at what Virginia did. That can be replicated with good coaching. And if that's what Earl Grant and Jim Molinari, who's an also defensive-minded coach, and Anthony Goins and the other coach who's slipping my mind, if they can really start a culture at Boston College basketball that is defense and, hustle, going for rebounds, they're going to win games, because that kind of mentality is what knocks off good teams. They can take good shooters off of their game. They can take games and muck it up. And, it may not be the prettiest thing to watch, but that's okay. In the end, all you want to do is win. And I think getting Chas Kelley and Donald Hand is a good first start. Now, folks have been asking me, we're talking about recruiting still, how many spots does Boston College have for the class of 2022? So they have two guards. You need to get some length in there. And you probably want another wing. So where does Boston College go next? Luke Hunger, if you're looking for a big, he is a local guy, and the Eagles are pretty high on him, and I think he's high on the Eagles, so he might be a big to get. You also have to remember Perry Smith, a forward from South Carolina, is also someone that could end up at Boston College. There's a bunch of different names. We're not going to get through them all. Ryan Dunn, there's a few forwards, a couple bigs. We'll have to see where BC goes. I think they have 2 spots, so I imagine a wing and a big, and they're going to call it a day. But, when you grab 2 guards like Kelley and Donald Hand, you have to be happy where Earl Grant has started his recruiting at Boston College. And credit to Brevin Galloway, who was on Twitter. He's the new guard that transferred from College of Charleston, who was the host for both of these recruits. He's hit 2 for 2, he said. So congratulations on him, showing those guys a good time. All right, this is AJ Black. On tomorrow's show, as I said, we'll have CJ Clinkscales. We'll talk more football. We'll start previewing Temple. We'll have it all. Make sure you check us out, and make sure to check out our other podcast, Locked On Bets, on our sites. And that is hosted by the great Lee Sterling and your boy Q, getting you all this betting info that you need to make the best bets. So check out Locked On Bets wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again soon. Stay well, everyone.